differentiate y equals x times arc cotangent of the square root of x. Remember that arc cotangent is the same as inverse cotangent. In fact, for all of our inverse trig functions, we can write them with arc in front. So instead of inverse sine, we could write arc sine. Instead of inverse cosine, we could write arc cosine, etc. Now, I think this is the first one we're doing with arc cotangent or inverse cotangent. So let's pull up our table. So we're looking at arc cotangent. So when we differentiate that bit, we're going to have negative 1 over 1 plus x squared. So we can keep that in mind. If we want to differentiate this, though, we need to recognize that we have a product of two functions. So we're going to have to use the product rule. The product rule says that we take the derivative of the first times the second. So the derivative of x is 1 times the second, arc cotangent root x, plus the derivative of the second times the first. So we're going to need to differentiate arc cotangent of the square root of x, and then at the end multiply what we get by x. I'm actually going to put the x out front just so that we don't forget about it. So it's the derivative of the second times the first. The first is here, and then we're going to multiply that by the derivative of the second. And we're going to have to use the chain rule because we have a composition of functions. So the derivative of arc cotangent of u is going to be negative 1 over 1 plus u squared. So this is going to be negative 1 over 1 plus u squared. So it's going to be root x squared. And then times the derivative of the inner function. The derivative of root x is 1 over 2 root x. Okay, so let's see if we can write this more nicely. Well, for the first part, 1 times anything is itself. So we can just write arc cotangent of the square root of x there. And then it's going to be minus because we notice that we've got a positive times a negative, times another positive. But that negative is going to make this a subtraction. And then it looks like, what are we going to have in our numerator? We're going to have x times 1, which is x. And then in the denominator, we've got 2 root x. And then times, if we look at 1 plus root x squared, root x squared is just going to be x, and so this is going to be 1 plus x here. And we can leave it like that, but we can also make it just a little bit more simple. Remember that if we have x, that's the same as the square root of x times the square root of x. So we can actually cancel out a square root of x in the top and bottom. And that's going to turn this top into just root x. It's one less thing written in our answer, so it's a little bit simpler. So this is going to be arc cotangent root x minus root x over 2 times 1 plus x. That is a little bit simpler than what we had before. There's a little bit less writing there. So this is probably the nicest way to write this answer.